industry's got some various issues that will be solved by a decentralizing system and the use of smart contracts. So one of the issues you've always found is that artists have been driven away from the fans and the fans away from the artists, and the fans also away from a fair deal for things like ticketing, and the artists also away from their revenues. And it's how do we try and push those back together using the latest modern technologies. So let's just deal really with the artists. So an artist, it's very hard to be discovered these days. You've got the big labels who do a fantastic job in a lot of ways, but they do have a very narrow choice on what they're actually looking for, because they invest a large amount of money behind each of the artists that they work with. So you might get 1,000 people applying to be published by a big label, and they may only take one of those people. So now you've got a lot of frustrated artists out there. So creating a much more simplified system that they can get published, even if it's not in such a huge way, and they may start off with us and then actually want to move to a bigger label. That actually is going to promote them out in a global fashion. But this is how we get people started. So they'd come on to us and they'd make a smart contract. Smart contract's very simple. It's really just your terms of business. This is what I am, this is what I'd expect, this is the way I'd like to collaborate with people. Now, two artists with smart contracts can actually make a band. Because the two smart contracts just basically easily fuse together, and it creates another contract which allows them to then have an agreement. Then once the first contract's in place, everything becomes legally very easy for them to do. So there's not a huge amount of cost going on to that. You might have someone who's managing a band, but they might manage a number of bands. We would have a venue that comes in, and they would have their own smart contracts. That's just their terms of agreement on how they deal with artists, how they deal with the ticketing, what the revenue shares are and everything. The fans themselves will also have the smart contracts as they come in and sit with our system. It might be on what they like and how they deal with that, but it's also through the tokenized system. They might wish to invest into various bits of content that the artist is producing. So if an artist is producing a new album or a new single, they might well go, okay, I need to raise £10,000 or $10,000, or depends where you are in the world, to actually get this out publicly. I'm going to do a crowdfunding through OHMz, and then effectively the artists that have been following them will be given an opportunity to buy into a piece of the future royalties of that track or of that album. It'd be very unlikely to be buying into the artists themselves, because that really restricts what the artist is doing, whereas it actually should be about the track and about the album. And then the rights, because we can actually manage that very well, because their contracts are now pushed together. We've actually made a smart contract, which has really become smart content, which goes into our rights system. Our rights system is then actually collecting the money. So when it's played over on a TV station or on a radio station or performed on stage, a proportion of those rights come in, it looks at the contract, it divides it up, everyone gets their piece of it. So it's a very, very efficient system using smart contracts. It's on the blockchain, so it's immutable. Someone can't say, oh, I never did that, because you've actually got massive proof. The other issue for fans is the systems are very unfair on ticketing and things. So you've got, if you're buying a ticket now, you go to a popular event, you might find that you've been waiting for weeks to get on. All the tickets are gone in the first 30 seconds. They've been bought by bots. Those same tickets now come onto resale sites at 10 times the price. So the fans are getting ripped off. The artists aren't making that money. So what we've done is we've created a smart ticketing system, which we've already built and is ready to roll. What that means is that we know who's bought the ticket. We can verify them right the way down to facial identity if you wanted to. It depends on how you want to put the identity of that ticket in. So we know who's got the tickets. We know when those tickets are resold. We can control the price of that resale. We know who's actually come to the venue, and we know who's been there and when they've gone. So an artist can now do a pre-promotion. So you've got someone who's saying, we're doing a concert here, this is the information we'd like you to have. You've got them inside the venue, or even to the pre there, you might say, we've got a whole load of merchandise. A particular tour that we're doing, and here's a discount voucher for 10% off. And when the concert's over, very simply, it's a thank you, let's put some more content out. And what we've done is you've engaged the fan and the artist back together, and you've actually got a real loyal following coming through. The fan is more likely to purchase merchandise, they're more likely to actually follow and go to other concerts, and they're more likely to actually purchase the content rather than pirate it or just stream it. It'll become something that they're in, and they'll tell other people about it. So you've created that. So that's there. We've already created a engagement app so that people can actually come in and put their content up to be judged by the fans. The other bit we're looking at is to make sure that the royalties are fairly collected. And the way we're doing that is more about using modern technology to make sure that the people already in this business have the best tools to be able to collect it. So we have a system that we're building which basically scrapes the web globally as looking for everything that is a digital output of music. It's actually agnostic to what the music is. The AI system just knows it's music. And it goes on, and it could be coming from a TV station or a radio station. And so we can even go onto the dark web and just hit streams. The problem with the streams, obviously, we don't know where they're coming from, and they're very hard to bill against. But it does give you some interesting data. So we can have a real-time view of everything that's been played on a particular track, wherever it was in the world, which gives some really interesting heat maps about wanting to go places, but also gives us a record that people like PRS or any of the collection agencies around the world can then access to actually make sure that they're collecting everything up to date. We can give the artist a real-time feed on what they're actually should expect to collect. There will be places that you would never collect from, and there'll be sort of some stuff which you know will come through more slowly. Ideally, the system would go to one where it's actually smart content being played everywhere, and the system automates itself all the way through. Now, that is a future system that I think will come in, but right now we have to work with what the systems are and how this works today. The way the system works, it listens to everything that's out there, it identifies the music, it then drops the metadata into our blockchain, and it takes a little Hadoop file so we can prove that it was recorded. So we have evidence of when it went out, where it was played, and now we can actually say, right, now we can go and collect on that. One of the reasons we're doing this is because we're not actually just looking to take a bit of the pie of someone else is having. We're actually trying to create a larger pie. The overall music industry is already worth over $50 billion a year. There's about 17.5 million on recorded music. You've also got a huge amount of ticketing going on, and there's a lot of peripherals that go around that. Now, we can increase this by adding new artists, adding new fans, getting more engagement, having a larger spend of the market coming through on it. So this is good for everyone that's involved. So live performances are growing at around about 5 to 6% a year on year at the moment, which is a very rapid growth, really. Digitized revenue growths are actually growing now, they're up to about 17%. A lot of this is on streaming, and it's how do you make sure that fairly gets paid to the artists on the way through. So we have a huge market that we're approaching, but we are the eco-structure. We happen to have made our own ticketing platform, but if somebody else came with a ticketing platform that they wanted to plug into our system, we'd have no problem with doing that. There obviously needs to be an economically viable way of doing that. If we're expecting a lot of developments to go on using blockchain technologies particularly, but also assets that are useful for artists. I mean, we've got Mash Tracks, for example, the company that we're working with, who have got some fantastic artist applications. You need to look them up, really, to actually, I can't do them justice in a short interview like this, but some of the things they're doing are amazing. We're also working with a company called Rights Ledger. Rights Ledger have effectively done a rights management system for the movie industries. So effectively, every time a clip of a movie or any part of a movie is played, they know where it's being played and they can collect on behalf of the movie, or they can do a shutdown on it. We're going to work with them to actually create the same system, but for the music industry. It needs a little bit of work from us with them, because we've got to create a different set of rights and how they're judged. But an interesting example of that would be that if our music is being played on YouTube, or one of our clients' music is being played on YouTube, effectively YouTube has two options. They contact the owner of the music because they can see we've registered that and it comes to us, and it's either a takedown notice, which just shuts it completely, or it's you take all the revenue from the advertising that's going on it, and that means that the person who's doing the promotion will shut it down anyway. The third option we'd like to work with is that if this is going out, we can then go back to the person that's put this out and say, well, hang on, if you're going out, you should do this legally. Enter into a smart contract that allows you to use this music. These are the agreement terms that the people with the music have, and now you're doing a revenue share. And for them, they can then build something that gets millions and millions and millions of views, and as the content comes in, as the revenues come in from YouTube, they'll come through the system and then just be divided up. So it's another use of the smart contract. So it's effectively they become a promoter, as opposed to someone that is just trying to push stuff up and getting shut down all the time. It actually gives them a real legitimate way of going about things. So all in all, it's a huge market. It requires something like this to keep it moving in the right direction. We're here to work with the music industry. The two principles that we have is it has to be good for artists and it has to be fair for fans. Anything that works with that works on our system, and it's a fair play in music. So OHMz is the fair play in music, and this is the way that the blockchain will help the industry. It will give security to the artists on what they're doing to make sure that they go into contracts open-eyed without having to go through a huge amount of costs. It should hopefully stop them getting tied into poor contracts. It will stop the fans getting ripped off so much. And hopefully it will actually help the large labels as well. With some of the things that we're doing will enable them to do what they do best, and we will become in some ways an incubator for talent that may never have been discovered at another way. To fund the expansion of what we're doing, and so we have a couple of bits already put onto this, is we're doing an initial equity raise, which is happening right now, so that we can actually build out a lot of the functionality that we need. We were actually looking originally to do an ICO at the very end of 2018, but with the current state of the markets, we've actually pushed that back into 2019. So small equity raise that's going on now, allowing us to build out everything that we're doing, and then we will look to push the ICO, or we may even switch, because we haven't raised any money on the equity side, we may even switch to an SCO. It depends on how the markets are, what the situation is at the moment. The problem with SCO at the moment is there's no real exchanges and markets for it. So although they have some interesting aspects, I don't think there is a maturer market as the ICO. The ICO, the tokens will be used, as I said, inside our system for the ticketing, for investing in artists, for buying merchandise, buying content. There will be ways of fans getting rewards for doing promotions for people. So it's a proper ecosystem structure. Obviously, fans will be able to buy tickets with fiat currencies as well. But there will usually be a small amount of tickets that are only available via the tokenization. And there will be some aspects you can only use the tokens for, like investing into various artists. And there's a transport system, but there'll be easier ways in and out of the currency. The overall raise we're looking to do is $26 million to build everything out that we need. We need to raise at least $5.5 million as a soft cap to build the software out. The additional money is for the promotion and for us to actually get artists on board and get the system expanded out, and also for the acquisition of the fan base.